to people about getting tested so that they can donate.
And that's exactly what we're going to talk about.
We'll get ready for that right now.
Let's go ahead and start. 5, 4, 3. Hey, family, you are tuned in to the Profit and Growth Hour here on WDRBmedia,
the voice of the community.
I am Dr. Bizness.
And I am Lady Guns. That's greatness under no stipulation in the house.
And we are so glad that you have tuned into this another Profit and Growth segment where we're always looking to give you something for your head, something for your heart, and something for your hands to do. We want to make sure that the time that you spend with us is edutaining in nature and that we're able to give you some real practical things so that your tomorrow will be better than your today. Oftentimes in life, we take for granted certain things. Sometimes we take for granted our spouse. Sometimes we take for granted our children. Sometimes we take for granted our own health. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about health and wellness, especially when it comes to people of our complexion. I'll let you figure that out, depending upon how you're tuning in. We have issues. Some of us have issues as it relates to our health and well-being, both mental health, emotional health, and physical health. But we know for a fact that if our health in any way, shape, or form is not where it needs to be, it will affect every single entire area of the rest of our lives, everything else that we touch, everything else that we do. Guns is here on my right. She is a fitness guru, deals in the area of personal training and nutrition and making sure that you eat right because we are what we eat. So for those of you that are eating the rooter to the tutor of the porkity pig, there may be some issues that come along with that later on that you may have to deal with. All that fried food. I understand that you like your yard bird, but how you prepare the yard bird sometimes needs to be questioned because all of that grease clogging up your arteries sometimes is not the best thing for us. So sometimes we have to be re-inspired and re-educated about some of the things that we need to do and should do in order to prevent the next generation from going down the same path that we're going down as it relates to bad health. We want to live long. We want to be able to tell all of the wonderful stories to our grandbabies. The 120 miles that we had to walk to go to school uphill
in the snow,
6 feet of snow,
with
no shoes. We want to be able to share that with our
where you go to school.
You know how we embellish for the grandbabies and they 2 years old and they sitting there with the eyes all wide open and they's like, really? You can tell them anything.
And then to find out you rode the school bus 2 blocks up.
Exactly. or got chauffeured, by mommy and daddy.
Absolutely. Parent Ubers.
Exactly. Because, when we're young, we're Superman. So we got the S on the chest. We can do no wrong.
Oh, no.
And every word that proceedeth out of our mouth
is golden.
Absolutely.
It is golden.
But then when they get a little bit older.
And they realize there's no Santa or a 120-mile trek uphill in the snow barefoot to school.
There's no Santa?
Oh, my gosh. You didn't know?
I didn't know.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, in all these years, I thought that the fat white man with the beard.
Let me tell you, I have met your mother, and she is not going to let you believe that another man was buying anything for you. She going to make sure you know that came out of her pocket.
I know, because we work really hard for the money.
Okay.
And to give somebody else credit for it, shoot. That tooth fairy, that be me.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But we also have Miss Ellen here. I do the fitness part, and Miss Ellen is all internal in well-being and understanding the consequences and what it requires if you don't obey and treat your temple as God has intended us to. And Miss Ellen, as I understand, you have a passion for sharing education about health and wellness and well-being and preventing our children, our future, from that.
Why don't you share with us a little bit about yourself, let the people know a little bit about your journey with regards to health and wellness.
Well, there is an epidemic in this country right now with African Americans that I find that is very upsetting to me because I found out that we have not been treated as aggressively as our counterparts in certain areas, and it has cost us our health. And I am particularly one of those people that have been treated for years with the same thing, hypertension, high blood pressure, over a period of about 16 years.
Wow.
And I was never told to see a nephrologist for the simple fact
A
that
whoologist? A what?
a nephrologist
A
is
nephrologist.
a kidney doctor.
Really? Okay.
And the reason being is because there was protein found in my urine. When you take a DOT sample, which is a urine specimen, they find protein in your urine. Well, when they do that, they should immediately send you to a nephrologist, which is a kidney doctor, to find out why there is protein pouring out of your kidneys into your bloodstream.
Wow.
So that was never told to me, and by the time I found out, I was already stage 4 kidney failure.
Wow.
So I never had an opportunity to even fight for my own health. And they just kept treating me year after year for hypertension and high blood pressure. Well, there was a reason that my kidneys were failing, but because they were only treating the symptom, I never knew what that was. So in the end of all of that, what happened was I ended up having to go on dialysis as an emergency approach to my condition because of the failure to see a nephrologist in time enough to catch it.
Wow.
So now I've been on dialysis for about 3 going on 4 years now, and I need a kidney. Well, I'm on the kidney transplant list, but they put me on what they call financial hold. Well, I was able to get my disability shortly after I was taken out of my job, and I've been on dialysis now 3.5 going on 4 years. Got on the kidney transplant list last year, and they put me on financial hold because you have to raise enough money to get the transplant and get on the medication that you have to take for the rest of your life, which is the medication that will help you not to reject the kidney that you get. So
you have to raise money?
You have to raise enough money, about $6,000, so that you can start to pay for the copay for the medication.
And that's just a start. And they're
start.
talking about doing this for the rest of your life. Right.
So you have to do what I'm doing now, start to educate people, get them involved, possibly get a GoFundMe page. And people like me, I'm 61 years old. I'm not tech savvy. I don't even know how to operate my phone good enough to get a Facebook page. I'm not on Facebook or Snapchat or any of that stuff. I don't even know how to get on that. Wow. And that's a problem also because people in my generation are kicking and screaming having to go into this new technical age of technology because everything is online. Everything you do is online. So I'm having to rethink the way I think about things and come into this new age and join this generation of
millennial takeover.
Yeah.
So,
and it's
with
like
everything.
nobody talks to anybody anymore. Everybody is
Texting and chatting and video blogging and right.
It's driving us crazy because it's like we don't want anything to do with it, but we're having to be dragged into it,
right.
whether we want to or not.
Mm-hmm. Right.
know,
The world is changing.
The world is changing, and
Right.
they can just leave me over here. I don't even want to go. I don't even want to go with this new generation. But I just heard you talking about, telling your grandchildren and, about things. I have great grandchildren now. My grandchildren are reproducing. So it's a whole new world for me. And my great grands are not even hearing the stuff that my grandchildren heard. So
right.
I'm already past that. And like I said, I'm only 61, so it's some things going on that I don't even know about yet, and people still walking around looking down at their phones, and nobody's looking up. So I told them, I said, when Jesus comes, they're not going to find him because they're going to be looking down, and he coming up. So
They be like, Lord, text me when you on your way.
It's like, if Jesus ain't texting, somebody going to miss the boat. And I'm like, I'm not getting on that train. I'm trying to... I'm just, it's kind of like we're lost. They say we lost a generation, but trust me, they've lost a generation because we ain't trying to go with them, but we having to go anyway. So it's so hard trying to incorporate everything, all of the new stuff into what is happening. But it's some stuff that we need to take a step back into time. When my mom was going into some of the stuff that she was doing in the healthcare field, now she was a caregiver, and she started going back to there's a book called Back to Eden, where all of the older people started doing things that she would go down in the garden and dig up roots and stuff, and she would make these creams and salves and stuff, and she would give it to us, and that stuff helped us. Well, I went back to the health food store and got that Back to Eden book because there are things that we need to go back to doing that has to do everything with natural, because the body was not designed to take all these synthetic things that the pharmaceutical companies are pushing on to us this day and time. The body is just not designed to handle all this stuff. God designed this body to heal itself. And so if we do the right things for it, it will heal itself. God doesn't need any help. He just doesn't need any interference. So those are the things that we need to do, is what's already been put in place. There's no new thing. It's just the old things that need to be brought back instead of pushed aside. So getting back to natural eating, clean eating, which is being pushed a lot these days and times, eating natural and raw vegetables. But the thing about it is, a lot of the vegetables aren't natural and raw.
That's true.
Everything's being mass produced, grown in greenhouses and GMOs and HMOs and all kinds of things going on. I'm telling you, nothing is pure anymore. So if we can get back to as natural of products that we can possibly get, growing our own food again, but the ground again, the dirt ain't pure, the water ain't pure.
Everything tainted.
What else gonna do?
One thing we can't do is just say that there isn't anything we can't do. I work with a lot of clients that, first of all, they say eating healthy is expensive. But I do education on how to financially reallocate, because I tell them you can't buy kale and cookies. It will be expensive. You're either going to do it either or. You'll find a way, to substitute the high price things, for the healthier options. I think the idea of creativity is lost. I grew up with my great-great-grandmother had a garden. Whatever we was having for dinner came out the backyard.
Right.
It came out of the garden. Exactly. I remember Papa Black, the first time I saw him slaughter a pig, I about passed out. And they was like, don't go out there.
Well, the pig
Like,
came out the
all I-
backyard,
All I thought about was Charlotte's Web. I ain't need to see that.
but the pig was in the backyard.
It didn't matter. We pork free. I didn't need that experience at all. But a lot of times our people are not educated, but they're also not striving for that education. You know, they're not, the information is there. It is not hidden. However, like you say, and it's hard because they don't have computers to Google what to do with the eggplant today. You know, they're not on their phones. Hey, Siri, tell me how to make these asparagus tonight. You know, they're not doing that. But at the same time, the cookbooks that my mom has a set of cookbooks, they greasy and they old and the pages are brown. They're not white anymore. And literally you can look in there and like it called for lard. I'm like, do they even make lard anymore?
They still do. But
Like,
the thing
where do you even find it at? So
they do still sell
Bojangles.
that at certain stores. But just like you said, now I grew up in the era where my parents did have a garden, so everything that we ate came out of the garden as well. So as a cook myself, now I try to cook as often as I possibly can. And the thing about it is, when you're trying to substitute a lot of these things that we don't use lard anymore, but I try to use things like olive oil and natural butter. I don't use anything that is artificial. If it has a long list of ingredients and I can't pronounce them, I don't use it.
Right.
It has to have maybe one or two things. If it's not butter or cream or just milk or something simple like that, I try not to use it. So I read labels, and you do have to educate yourself. You do have to read labels and find out what's in the food that you're consuming.
Right.
And I make a conscious effort to do that so that I can make an educated,
decision on what it is.
when I'm shopping. So the things that are expensive, you can get, they are making them more available to you.
Right.
So that it's not as hard to shop as it used to be. But at the same time, trying to plan a meal every day and trying to cook so that I won't have to, the fast food. Fast food is terrible. Is not good for you. So cooking is the best way to go, and it's the most economical because you can't afford to eat out every day or twice a day. It's more economical to cook. And so I find that cooking, if I cook 2 or 3 meats and 2 or 3 vegetables, I can eat off of that 3 or 4 days and then cook again. I find that that's more economical. It's better for me, and I enjoy my own cooking.
Right.
So, and my mother was a scratch cook.
I know that's right.
I had 6 aunts and 7 uncles, and they could all cook. So I grew up in an era where I'm accustomed to cooking, and can't nobody beat me with no sweet potato pie.
We ain't finna talk about that.
I get that.
We're going to have a competition when we come back from break.
A patty pie against Miss Ellen Pie.
Exactly. And we're going to see who going to win. Family, don't go anywhere. You're tuned in to the Profit and Growth Hour here on WDRB Media, the voice of the community.